I think we're ready to go. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this interactive session on social media, websites, and branding. Let's give a shout out to our 2020 LTC sponsors to say thank you. Parallon, Patient, Russell Investments, and Cenex. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Jason Meyer, Chapter Advancement Team member, who will load the bases up with social media, websites, and branding. Jason, the floor is yours.
All righty. Thank you very much, Jenna. As Jenna had mentioned, my name is Jason Meyer. It's great to be here with all of you this morning from beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. As you can tell, we had the tide rolled in last night, and so I got the ocean behind me. But it's great to be here. I've been a member of HFMA for nearly 20 years now, started in San Diego back in the late 1990s, and I've been a longtime member of the Nevada chapter. I live in Las Vegas, and I'm just really excited to be here and excited to be part of the CAT team and presenting today to you. So with that said, today's presentation, we are going to be looking at the different social media platforms: LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're going to be talking about some of the best practices that are involved with using these social media platforms and some helpful tips with each. I want to point out that at the end of the presentation, we will be making this available to all of you so that you have access to all of the content within. There's hyperlinks within the presentation that you're going to want to use to access the tools within the HFMA Association website. So we'll make all this available to you after the presentation today. So I believe we are going to do a Menti poll right now. So if you go to www.menti.com and use the code 347089, you will be able to answer the question that's posted to you on the slide of why does social media make sense for associations? So I'll give that a few minutes for everybody to log into that and start answering that question. I'm showing we have 108 attendees right now. That's fabulous. We have about a quarter of those having responded, so we'll give this a few more seconds. And we really appreciate everybody's engagement today in this interactive social media presentation. All right, we're up to 44. It's starting to fly now with everybody's responses. Halfway there. Okay, so it's looking like as people are still responding to the question of why does social media make sense for associations, it's pretty much stabilized. So based upon the results that have come in so far, it looks like the largest reason for social media, in your opinion, is event promotion at an 8.1 mark. Following that is you gain credibility by being a great source of current information for your members. And then reach out to members and get instant feedback, member engagement, and then lastly, top-notch member customer communication. So that's good information to be able to share with all of you, because it seems that everybody's using their social media platforms for promoting their events more than anything. So that's fabulous. Okay, so as we teach our members social media, and before I go on to the next slide, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that last slide. Most association members are asking their leadership for more information about social media. It's because they need it for their own workplace. Most importantly, though, teaching your members about social media ensures that your association members will become better equipped to handle the social media related issues for your own company or for their companies. It makes them more willing participants in everything your association does with regards to social media. You could say it's the secret sauce of what we do. It ensures positive ROI on your social efforts, and it creates a more engaged and more satisfied community of your association members. We've all seen a few of our own colleagues update their Twitter accounts during meetings or sessions that we've been at some of our events. So we ask, why aren't more professional associations proactively doing this? As we look at social media promotion during your own events, we can see that by sharing quotes, information, photos, and even videos from your events, what it's going to do is it's going to go a long way to help promote your association or your chapter. It also engages and informs those members who couldn't make it to the event. So social media has a lot of value to our organization in how it actually engages and reaches out and creates satisfaction within our members. Okay, now we can move on to the next slide. So now we're going to talk about the different social media platforms that are available to us and kind of go through some of the nuances of each, some tips and tricks and how to use them. We're going to start with LinkedIn, but before we do that, I believe we're going to be taking a poll.
Yes, we are, Jason. So let me just launch this for everybody. Okay, everybody, fill out those polls. Do you have a LinkedIn company page, group, or business profile? Looks like a lot of companies have a LinkedIn company page.
All of the above for Bill Ickes.
Excellent.
Yeah, and same with, I think it's Tom Camp.
Yep, very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ready. So LinkedIn, as we start digging in a little more into LinkedIn, LinkedIn basically has two types of profiles you can set up. There's your personal profile to promote yourself, and there's a business profile. We're going to focus more on the business profile today. With each type of profile, you can set up within LinkedIn what's known as either a company page or a LinkedIn group. During the session that I'm discussing today, we're going to be focusing on the LinkedIn group. And then during a later session with Kayla at 12:45 Central today, she's going to be talking more about the company page with you. So when you're setting up your business profile, obviously it's much like setting up a personal profile. The essential elements that you're going to need to do this is an email address, a password. You're going to want to have a profile photo, just like you do on your personal sites, some history of the chapter, and then some of the personal stuff, if you had a personal profile, would be to add your education, your affiliated groups, your certifications, and everything. LinkedIn is, as you all know, is more of the professional social media site for where we go to develop our professional lives and careers and kind of be social in that respect. So the LinkedIn business profile is very close to that, and what we do is we set up a profile for our chapters within LinkedIn. So managing your LinkedIn group, it did occur to me as I was going through the slides today that we did not set up any slides that actually show you how to set up the LinkedIn group. So I'll just put out there now that if you don't already have a LinkedIn page or a LinkedIn group for your chapter and you need any assistance with setting this up, please reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to help you get that set up. But once it is set up, in order to manage it, you log into the groups site And then you go to that little manage button up there that we have circled in red. And as you click the manage button, it brings up the settings and the options for you on the left. It's again, knowing that most of you already have probably a LinkedIn page for your professional life or Facebook or whatever. It's very similar in nature and how these all work. So this is where you can publish the information about your group. It also allows you to set up the group rules and the etiquette for your group. So as people are joining your group, they can kind of see what the standards are to be a member of that group. So here is a real life example of the Lone Star chapter down in Texas where they had set up the About This group. As you can see, it's got some good general overview information for the group. What you will want to probably do in this section is add geographical areas to your chapter. So this is a good example because Texas has multiple chapters within Texas. California has multiple chapters within California. So what you probably want to do is identify in this section all the geographical areas that pertain to your particular chapter. So if there's somebody on the border in Texas of 2 different chapters, this is a great place for them to kind of identify which chapter they're a member of or that they should follow and be interactive with. Try to localize your description. What do you offer that's of interest to your particular members? So this may be a place where new members are coming to find information about the chapter and find information about why they should be a member of the chapter and why they should be engaged with the chapter. Group rules. So this again comes from the Lone Star chapter on group rules. As we all know, when you go out into social media, there's all kinds of opinions, all kinds of comments and interaction that goes on. So you really want to, in all of your social media platforms, set up what your rules and your etiquette is or are for your group. One thing I'll point out that you probably want to make put out in your group rules, and I say this as a business partner myself, is if you don't want your business partners to use your group as a platform to sell their solutions or their services, make that clear here in your group rules. But also ensure that they do have a platform to engage with your chapter. Especially if they are a sponsor of your chapter. You don't want to cut out, interaction or engagement with your partners, your business partners. So, but if you don't want them coming out to your site and using your site as a place to sell, make sure you make that clear here in your group rules. So if there's any questions on that, we can answer that. If not, we will move on to the next slide. So with any and all social media platforms, you're going to want to be able to hand this over at some point. So with LinkedIn, what you want to do is you want to log in to your group. You're going to go back up to that manage button again, and then you're going to click the members on the left column of the management. This is where you can select the persons or the people whose roles need to change. And so you can assign roles to everybody who's a member of your group as either a user or an administrator or a manager, and this is where you're going to want to do it. I want to point out a few things here. One is maintenance of the platform succession plan and handing these off. Personal example is with the Nevada chapter. I was the communications chair about 6 or 7 years ago. Today, we are still having some issues with some of our platforms where the management of the platform got lost along the way. And so we're not sure what some of the passwords are. So it's something that a lot of people don't think about is we have members come and go on our committees and chairing our committees, that if they go and they move to Belize or move to the Bahamas and take that password with them, it may be hard to track them down and get that information back. So you can't hand it off to the next person. So this is super important, and I don't want to overlook this. Also point out that one of the things that might make it easier for you as you're managing these sites and passing it on is to create a generic email address that's associated with the profile. So when we had set up our webpage for the Nevada chapter historically, I did it through GoDaddy, and so through GoDaddy we had an email server, and so what I did is set up treasurer at Nevada HFMA. You can do this with Gmail, or you can have a HFMA Nevada Communications at gmail.com. This is another way of managing this, so that as you're passing on your social media platforms on, you also pass on that email address to the next person, and that's the email address that gets monitored to make sure that anything and everything that's happening on the social media platforms that goes to a single email address. The problem is when you're using personal email addresses, once again, if you're not passing this on to the next chair or the next person on the committee, 5 years down the road, anything that's happening with that group is still going to that person's personal email address, and if they're not monitoring it, that information is not being passed on to your chapter. So I highly recommend creating a generic email address for your chapter that will always be passed on and is used for these platforms. Alrighty, so that's it on LinkedIn. And I think we're going to move on to Facebook, but I think we have another poll that we're going to take before we talk about Facebook. Is that correct?
You are correct. So let's get ready to poll. Here we go. Do you have a Facebook chapter page?
Lots of them out there.
Yep.
Looks like we have some great chat going on too.
Oh, yeah.
Melinda, our LI group was created 10 years ago and did not have multiple owners at that time. The one owner is no longer in the chapter, and we learned we cannot manage the group without that person naming other owners. Perfect example of what I was just talking about. So thanks, Melinda, for sharing that. That's awesome.
Okay. Looks like we have about 83% of chapters that have a Facebook page and 17 don't. So thank you, everybody, for participating in the poll.
Right on. Moving on. Okay, so your Facebook, your chapter page. So it's, you know, some of this may seem like it's going to get a little redundant, but it's basically the same thing. You're going to set up a page. Facebook used to have groups. They don't really use the groups anymore, and they use pages. Again, if you need any assistance for those 17 chapters that don't have a chapter page for their chapter, if you want any assistance setting this up, please feel free to reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to help. But once you do get that page set up, you're going to want to make sure you upload and update your cover image. You're going to upload and update your profile image. And you want to keep, just like on the LinkedIn page or group, you want to keep your about information current so that everybody knows when they come out here and they search and they find your chapter page, they want to know about your chapter. And in my opinion, you can't put enough detail on that, especially for some of these new members that are joining, you know, and they just really want to learn about our chapters. So some best practices when setting up your Facebook page and the security. Posts that contain images or videos will have more visibility than those that only contain text. We as a culture like to look at our pictures and like to look at our videos. So the more of that you can embed in your pages and your groups, the more traffic it'll drive to your site. Monitor, respond, and engage with any members or anybody who's actually posting on your page. You want to respond to private messages. That's one thing that I know a lot of times gets missed is people are direct messaging or private messaging, and unless you're monitoring that and you're having notifications sent to your phone as a communications chair or one of the committee members, unless you go to the page, you don't ever see that occurred. And so you don't want to give the sense to a new member or anybody who's posting messages to you directly or privately that you're ignoring them. So make sure you track that also. You want to like or follow other chapter pages, the HFMA national page, related organizations and companies within, you know, particularly your sponsor companies or companies, hospitals, health systems, payers within your chapter region. make sure you follow their pages too. You want to drive traffic to them, and you want them to drive traffic back to you. This is a community of communication. Get ideas from companies, organizations, people you follow with your personal Facebook account for ideas on how to apply that to your chapter's Facebook account. We are going to learn more about best practices with regards to Facebook at a later session, and I believe that's the session with Myra from the Northern California chapter. Some of the security issues to be aware of: it's important to monitor and review your security settings, and in order to do that on your Facebook page, you go to your settings page for security, and you go ahead and you set those security settings. There's a lot of them, so when you go to security settings, there's just going to be a whole list of things that you want to make sure you read each one of those. A lot of times they have that little question mark, so if you don't know what that security setting is, you can kind of open that up and see what specifically that is. One of the biggest security settings to be concerned with on any of your social media platforms is whether or not people are allowed to join the group or join the page without any approvals, or whether you want to give approvals. It's a personal preference with on a personal page as well as within your chapter pages. And a lot of times it's a matter of maybe leaving it open initially, and then you're monitoring and tracking the communications and the engagement. And if you start seeing some bad actors coming in, or some inappropriate behaviors, at that point you might want to shut it down and only allow people on your page or your group with approval. This is also the place where if you do have bad actors who join, or are engaging with inappropriate information, where you want to go and block some of those folks. So the security settings for any of your social media platform pages and groups is extremely important. Make sure you monitor that. Make sure your settings are appropriate. You don't want to make them too rigorous or too tight either, where it's too difficult for people to actually join, because then all of a sudden you're not going to have anybody join your page or engage with you. This also falls back onto the monitoring, because if you have the setting where they have to be approved before they can join your page or group, and you're not monitoring notifications, you may have 15 people who are asking to join the page or the group, and you're not allowing them in because you're not monitoring those notifications. So it all kind of ties together. Be aware of it and make sure you set it appropriately. Other things that help within Facebook. So Facebook has built-in free tools that are available to you to better manage those accounts. One of the free tools that we wanted to highlight here is a scheduling tool that allows you to schedule posts that appear at specific times and dates. This is really great little tool. It's a best practice that we learned from one of our chapters, where they will schedule all of their events for the next week or the next month, or any posts that they want to go out to their members of their page on Saturday. So they block off 3 or 4 hours on a Saturday or a Sunday evening. They create all their posts for that week. They schedule them, and then they set it and forget it. So that way you don't have to log into your Facebook page daily or on all the time to post things when you're scheduling them. This is really handy, especially if you have events and you know that your events are going to, you have events for the next 3 months or 6 months. You can go ahead and schedule those posts for those events 6 months in advance, and then they'll fire off when you want them to fire off. This is great also if you have an event 6 months out, you want to create a post for 3 months, 1 month, 2 weeks, 2 days out. You can schedule all those at one time, and then they'll fire off when you want them to fire off. So really great tool. Just wanted to make that aware to everybody. Once again, how to hand it over. So you're gonna hear this theme throughout the session today, and we're just gonna keep talking about how we hand over our pages. So with Facebook, you go to your chapter page, you click on the settings up in the upper right corner, you click on the page roles, and much like LinkedIn, you assign either admin, editor, manager roles to the members of that page. And as Melinda had pointed out to us, great advice, you might want to have more than one admin. So if you have a communications chair and maybe 2 committee members, maybe make all 3 of them admins of the page. So that way you have, if one person moves or, just quits or whatever the case may be, other people can actually access the page and make changes to it also. Great advice. Okay, so now we are going to dig into Twitter, but before we do that, we have another poll.
Okay, everyone. Do you have a Twitter chapter account?
You're doing such a good job, Jason. We have no questions. You're just answering everybody's questions as you go.
Either that or I just confused everybody so much, so like, whatever.
Well, it looks like we have about 3/4 of the participants on the call today have a chapter Twitter account.
All right.
So thank you for polling.
Yeah, what was the poll number for the actual LinkedIn groups or pages? Do you remember?
Oh, the LinkedIn one was like 80%.
Right.
And then there were several that had all 4.
Okay, and that's what I would anticipate. So as we talk about Twitter, setting up your profile, again, if you need any assistance setting up your Twitter account for your chapter, let us know. Be more than happy to help with that. This is one of those ones that I believe you probably definitely want to separate and segregate your personal Twitter profile from your chapter's Twitter profile. Again, you can upload and update your cover image. You can upload and update your profile image, and you can keep your about information current. So you're seeing the theme across all the different platforms. You just want to make sure it's all current. Twitter, your feed. So Twitter is an interesting tool if you've never used it, where you have, I believe it's 165 characters, or maybe it's 260 characters now, to pass on information to the people who are following you or you may be following. You can write a tweet, so they call them a tweet. You can share a photo. You can share videos. You can post polls directly from your Twitter's homepage. If you're looking for other ways to share original content, this is a great option for doing that. And that last bullet point there is really important. So your feed is going to show content from all other companies or organizations or people you are following. And it may show content of people who are following you. So much like Facebook, where you like a page or you like somebody and or you follow somebody, that now creates a connection between you and that organization and that person. So I point this out because you want to make sure that these are a reputable organization or people who you can trust, that aren't going to be coming to your Twitter page and posting things that, you know, is inappropriate or not appropriate for the chapter to represent the chapter. So we're going to talk a little bit about the hashtag. Okay, make sure I was on the same slide. So the hashtag is a label that's used in social media sites, and what the hashtag does, and we're going to talk about the difference between a hashtag and your handle. But what the hashtag does is it creates like a group thought or a group think, and as you put that into your post, as other folks come and search a hashtag, anything and everything you say that you put a hashtag now is connected to that. Some hashtags are original. You may create an original hashtag that nobody else ever thought of. You may be using hashtags that are generic in nature and millions of people have used. It just really connects your thoughts and your ideas on what you're posting on Twitter or any other social media platform to other thoughts and ideas that other people have posted with that exact same hashtag. What we've listed here is a couple of add-ins or add-on applications that can be used. So right tag, you can use to find hashtags with high engagement rates. So if you want to see, like hashtag revenue cycle is obviously going to have a lot of high engagement rates. We know that due to common sense. But if you're looking for other hashtags that have high engagement rates, right tag is the place for you. And that it's an add-on that would help you identify those. Twitonomy will monitor Twitter hashtag analytics for you. So if you're using hashtags on your Twitter account and you want to see which ones are getting the most engagement or catching the eye of more people, Twitonomy will help you with that. And then Hashtagify is another one to help find trending Twitter hashtags. I point out that some of these add-ins have free usage and some of them have subscription-based usage. So you just have to kind of go out and research these to see which ones have a cost and which ones don't have a cost.
So Jason, there is a question that came in regarding the tool that is used for social media accounts. Is there an application that, like, I guess it's Hootsuite, for all of them to be connected together, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc.? And is it hard to set up?
That's a great question. I actually have that. I was going to address that on another slide, but yes, Hootsuite is an application that can be used. So you're setting up like a Facebook page, a Twitter account, and a LinkedIn group or page onto Hootsuite, and it monitors all that so that if you want to put out a post and you want it to go out to all three of those sites at one time, you can do that through Hootsuite. So you don't have to log into every single one of those, create a post with hashtags and send individually. You can do it through that. Whether it's hard to set up, I'll be honest, I've never set one up myself. So we can poll or we can get information from somebody else who's actually done that and kind of get some.
Yes, so the Oregon chapter uses Buffer instead of Hootsuite to publish to 4 different social media accounts simultaneously. And Buffer was super easy to set up from Michelle Cooper.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle, for sharing that information. We'll be sharing Michelle's information to all 145 people on this. No, I'm just kidding. But we can gather that information and send that out to everybody too, if there's a desire to do so. Not a problem. So I kind of touched on this a little bit already, the differences between a handle and a hashtag. So the handle is a person or an organization. So if you send a tweet out and you send it to @HFMA Pfeiffer, it's going to go to Mr. Joe Pfeiffer. If you send it to @HFMA San Diego, it's going to go to that profile for whoever's managing the HFMA San Diego. The hashtag is more, like I said, it's a more of a group thing. So anytime we send out a tweet or a post that has hashtag 2020 LTC, it's now grouping with everybody else who's used that hashtag. So as you log into Twitter and you go to the little search icon and you search hashtag 2020 LTC, it's going to bring up all the posts that have ever used that hashtag. So that's kind of the difference between an @ and a hashtag. Is the @ geared towards a person or a group. The hashtag is geared towards the thoughts behind whatever the hashtag is. Okay, we have another Menti poll here. So once again, if you're on menti.com and 347089, please go there, and we want to poll you to see what your thoughts are on the hashtag best practices. Which answer is the right way to utilize the hashtag? Okay.
Thank you, Clint, for answering the Buffer question. So there was a question, Jason, that
Yep.
Buffer have a cost. And so Clint answered the question, and it looks like for all four, the platform is $144 a year.
Awesome. Thank you, Clint. Okay, it looks like we have just about half of the folks who have responded to this Menti question, and it looks like by a large margin, the right way to utilize the hashtag, give members a reason to use hashtag. So we want to talk a little bit about some of the do's and don'ts when it comes to utilizing the hashtag. Obviously not going to read this entire slide, but I want to go over some of the highlights with regard to the slide. So you do want to make your hashtags easy to remember and spell. Complicated, long hashtag are, again, given the fact that hashtags are used to kind of pull together groupthink or group thoughts on a particular subject. If you use the hashtag, today is a fabulous day and I can't wait to go outside and hop in my pool, I don't think anybody else is going to be searching for that, and I don't think anybody else is going to be using that. So you're not going to drive a lot of traffic to that hashtag. Do be realistic with your hashtags. Don't expect people to start using your brand or slogan just because you're throwing it out there. Do research on hashtags. A lot of times when you use a hashtag and you put it into a post or you're putting it into your tweet, it will auto-populate the rest of what it thinks you're trying to write. So if I'm doing hashtag revenue, it may give me hashtag revenue cycle, hashtag revenue improvement, hashtag, whatever. So as you're selecting your hashtags, if you want to drive a lot of traffic to your thought, choose a hashtag that you think is popular and being utilized a lot. You want people to retweet or forward or use your hashtag, so give them a reason to do that. And do partner with influencers. So in this case, Tracy Packingham is definitely an influencer, so make sure you partner with Tracy. So all 146 people, please send Tracy a text after this, asking her what her hashtag is. I'm kidding. But as you partner with people who have a great presence on Twitter or any of the social media platforms, they may be sharing your information, which gets it out to a wider population of people. And likewise, you can be sharing great information that they have. It's amazing for those of you that use Twitter, when you click on somebody's profile and you see that they're being followed by 852,000 people. It's mind-boggling to me how people follow others. And so those are known as influencers, and they can definitely help you out in getting your messages out. Don't over hashtag. So this is the one where you may be putting in 15 hashtags on a thought. That kind of it waters down your thought by having it go in too many places. Don't expect your brand or slogan to translate to a hashtag. Don't expect people to use your hashtag without a reason or incentive. So make sure that your thoughts that are attached to that hashtag are relevant and valid and insightful thoughts, and that they're passing on good information, because as people see that, they're going to want to use that hashtag and pass it on too. Don't neglect to educate on what it is and how to use it. Don't use all caps. That's kind of one of those standard rules that we all follow. And very importantly, and I want to really kind of emphasize this one, don't interject your personal beliefs, opinions on your chapters, social media sites. Just please keep in mind, and I can't emphasize this enough, your site is your social media platform, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, is a representation of your chapter and an overall representation of HFMA. So please, if you have personal, religious, political, or any other beliefs, reserve those for your personal sites, and keep your hashtags and your posts and everything on our HFMA sites professional in nature. We would greatly appreciate that. Okay, so Twitter best practices. So best practices with regards to using Twitter and other things that help. Tweets with images or videos are more visible to others, and a lot of times when there's a video or an image within your tweet, it draws people to go look at it. Use your hashtags appropriately, retweet appropriately. General guidelines for this is approximately 70% of your tweets should be original and about 30% of your tweets should be a retweet. If you're not familiar with what a retweet is, as you're reading other people's tweets, you have the option to comment on that tweet, you have the option to like that tweet, and you have the option to retweet. As you retweet, you have two options there where you can either just retweet, where you're basically sending that tweet out to your followers, or you can retweet with a comment. I prefer, when I retweet with a comment so that I can add some insight to why I'm sending this off to the people who are following me. Again, monitor and then respond and engage, just like all the other social media platforms. If anybody is posting on your site or on your Twitter account or posting information to you, make sure you monitor that and respond to them so that they know that there's value in what you're sharing. Follow other chapters, once again, HFMA, industry organizations. The more you follow professionally, the more information you're able to pass on to your members who are part of your account. And that's that. We have on the bottom of this some information. So this, again, this link will be available to you after the presentation. Beyond the basics, these are support articles on the Twitter site to kind of, if you need more information on how to get beyond the basics of using Twitter, you can use that link, or you can actually use Twitter within Facebook. So there's another link for an article for that. If you have any questions, on this, we can talk some more about it. How to hand over your Twitter account. So again, you're going to log in. You're going to go to your settings and privacy. And on this one, you will change the email address it's associated with and change the password as recommended. If you need help, you can go to support.twitter.com. The difference here is if you set up that generic email address, your chapter name at gmail.com or whatever, you wouldn't need to change the email address. You just want to give the password to the next person in line, and if they want to change the password, they can change the password. But again, as you do your succession planning for the communication chair or communication committee members, make sure a person doesn't leave with that password without handing it off to the next person. Lastly, we have Instagram. So let's do another poll on Instagram.
All right. Do you have an Instagram company account? I have never used Instagram.
You haven't?
No, I have not.
Oh, dear goodness.
I know.
I have an Instagram account, and the only reason why I have it is because I wanted to see a video my son posted, and I had to create an account to do that. But I'm like you, Jenna. I'm old school.
Yeah. Yep.
I have one just so I can keep track of my daughter. So I don't use it for anything else, really.
Interesting.
Yeah.
This is having the opposite that the other polls resulted in. So it looks like we have about 28% have an Instagram company account, and almost 3/4 do not.
I am not surprised by that result, because Instagram to me is the most social of these and the least, I don't want to say professional, but I think the functions and the features and functionality of those other social media platforms really kind of feed more into what we do as an organization. So Instagram, as you can see, there is the #1 social media platform. It's quick and it's easy to use. Essential elements of setting up Instagram and getting started is you're going to need a mobile number, an email address, your full name. What it'll do is you'll create a username, which is similar to the handle within Twitter. You'll set up a password, and you'll set up your profile picture. When your Instagram profile is set up, you're going to want to upload and update your picture, keep your bio information current. So once again, this is somewhat like the About Us, and you can attach a website or phone number to your Instagram profile. All right, best practices for using Instagram. These sound very similar. Monitor, respond, and engage. Respond to the private messages that you're receiving on Instagram. Like and follow other chapters and accounts. Get ideas from companies and organizations. If you want to hand over an Instagram account, you have to log in to the Instagram. Go to your account profile. You're going to click Edit Profile. And again, you're going to change the email address and the phone number in the profile information. And again, if this is tied to like it shows on the slide there, chapter@hfma.org, you're not going to change that email address, but you may change the phone number that's associated with it. For those of you that do use Instagram, you know that Instagram is a photo sharing app where you can caption your photos and share those with everybody. I think this is probably not used as much as an organizational social media platform, but where it is used would be at your events, at your networking events or some of your educational events where you want to share photos of that event. Instagram is a great option for that, as is Twitter and LinkedIn. Okay, so security settings. This really applies to best practices on security settings for all of your social media platforms. Always important to review your security settings. Again, on any of these, as you go into that and you open it up, there's going to be many security settings. So make sure you're aware of what each one of those does for your social media platform. Monitor your site and content if allowing others to post or comment. Super important note there is, again, you can't just open up a Facebook page or a LinkedIn page or group and then never monitor who's on it and what they're saying, because this is a representation of your chapter, and it's very important to understand who's engaging there. Know who should have access. You can set security settings on, again, allowing people to your platform without being approved or with approval. And then make modifications to settings and approve all friends or followers. So we have pros for Facebook and Instagram. So we're going to talk a little bit about the pros and cons of using Facebook and Instagram. So right now we're going to poll you all on the pros of using Facebook and Instagram. So what are your thoughts on the pros? And I think on this one, you will just type in what your thoughts are, and we're going to see what bubbles to the top. Anybody have a, oh, there we go. Here comes a few. Member engagement. Easy to use, that's cool. Fun and easy. So the ones that are in the largest font are the ones that are getting the most votes right now. Right on. So it looks like some of the pros of using Facebook and Instagram is that it's easy to use, it's easy, and it's fun and engages folks and allows you to post pictures, which is really nice. It gives you some of the other pros are increased reach. Instagram has 8 million active users right now. Facebook continues to be the #1 social media platform or network. It gets them engaged, and I think we had engagement there. So Instagram has some of the most engaged users. Facebook has the second highest audience of engagement rate. So now we want to know some of your thoughts on the cons of using Facebook or Instagram. Millennials, first one up there. Unprofessional comments, yep. Okay. Some more cons are more social in nature and utilizes personal accounts in many cases. So you're not setting up a professional account, you're using a personal account to set these up. This is where I want to talk a little bit about the TweetDeck. The TweetDeck is another add-in that displays all of your Twitter accounts in one place, tracks activity, schedules, and tweets. So if you happen to have, you're the communications chair for multiple organizations, TweetDeck will allow you to monitor all of your Twitter accounts in one place. And then we also talked about Hootsuite already. Okay, next slide. All right, so now we're going to get into the fun stuff, website design. As you're designing your websites, you're going to want to make sure that it's set up appropriately for your chapter. Some of the basic requirements of websites is make sure it's accessible, and by accessible, you probably want to set up a site that can be accessed via a computer, a tablet, a mobile device. A lot of these sites that are being set up now have multiple modes so that as people are accessing your site on their phone or a tablet or a computer, it changes the way it looks, but it's appropriate for that device. Keep your content fresh, updated on a regular basis to encourage visitors to come back. Review your site often and remove outdated and redundant information. Nothing worse than going to a chapter's website to look up who their executive team is or board of directors are and seeing people's pictures and bios from 3 years ago. Keep your educational program listings up to date. Add events as soon as you know about that event and you have dates for those events. In some cases, you may just put a placeholder so that people know there's going to be an event with the date TBD. But as soon as you know, put those events up there. You have members and you have your business partners who are going to your website so that they know when they can come and engage with you. So make sure that stays up to date on a pretty regular basis. Create a process to ensure that the content on your site is proof. So if you only have one person who's managing your site and that person's not very good at grammar or spelling, make sure you have somebody else who's going in and reviewing the site on a regular basis so it looks professional and everything's accurate at all times. So we talked about the different platforms that it's used on. So moving on. HFMA chapter website guidelines. This is a great slide for you all. So when we hand this off to you, utilize the slide and the links within to get the information to manage your website. The chapter name and logo, you can upload your logos from there. So these are, when you go to a website and there's tabs or different pages, this is a good way to set up your pages. So you're gonna have your landing page, which has your chapter name and logo, which should actually be on all your pages. Make sure you have a page with your current officers, the rosters with their name, what position they're in for the current year, and possibly some limited contact information. Don't post anybody's cell phone number or email address without their permission to do so. Probably never ever want to put somebody's address on your website. Upcoming chapter events, calendar events, and registration information for those events with the sites that we're using in Cvent now. All that I think is pretty much been rolled out pretty good. You have to post, it's required that you post your chapter constitution or your bylaws. You can pull those bylaws from the link there. I highly recommend you ensure that your bylaws are contemporary and updated. I believe, and Tracy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe bylaws are supposed to be reviewed and re-signed every 2 years or so. So if
yes, actually, they just need to be reviewed. We don't, as long as there's no changes, if there's any changes, those have to be approved by the association and then brought to the board.
Okay, great. You want to create a link to the HFMA's join page. So as you know, we're all about our members and trying to get new members. So make sure there's a link on your site for that. Link to the HFMA online directory so that members can find other members within the whole association. And then view other chapters' websites to see what they're doing and how their sites are set up. You can go to hfma.org and utilize these links to find other chapters. And as the chapter chair and committee members, there's tools for you to use to develop your chapters at that link. So I think we have another poll coming up here.
Yes, we do. Are you managing your own website, or do you have an administrator to help? Looks like we have about 37% do this on their own, and about 64% of chapters have an administrator for this. So thank you, everybody, for participating in the poll.
Okay. And that question kind of leads into also, how the sites are developed. There's great organizations out there. I don't know if we're still using ePage City or anybody uses ePage City. The Nevada chapter.
Very few. Yeah.
Okay, and the Nevada chapter uses an organization called Star Chapters. So you don't have to know HTML. You don't, if you're new to this, don't stress out that the management of a website is difficult. A lot of it's known as WYSIWYG, or what you see is what you get, where you can just drag information onto your page and drag it off. Very easy. If you need some information on any of that, or which chapters are using what platforms for their websites, reach out and we'll be more than happy to get that information to you too. They're so easy these days. So other things to consider on your webpage and your site. Remember to recognize your sponsors. It's very important. Use their logos and add a link to your sponsor's webpage. One thing I will point out here is make sure that you are communicating with your sponsorship chair. A lot of the chapters sell different levels of sponsorship, and depending upon whether they're a platinum sponsor or they're a bronze sponsor will depend upon what level of access they get to your sites or your newsletters or anything else that you're putting out. So make sure you're working closely with your sponsorship chair on that information. Other options for creating your websites are blogs and communication spaces. I loved the blog that we put together. Blogs are a great way to communicate on your webpage. You can post news articles and links to other things that you see out in the world that's relevant. And it allows your members to comment on those. It's kind of like the communities that we utilize within the association's pages. And one other thing is, on many sites, you have the option, especially when it comes to blogs and things like this, there's an option to turn on so that your members can opt in or opt out of emails or updates. That's very important because, there's guidelines, federal guidelines and other things that restrict us from sending spam or sending information to mail distribution lists inappropriately. So just make sure that, if there's the option to opt out of newsletters, that they have that. Okay, I'm getting I think they're playing the music for me.
Yeah.
So chapter logos, choose a logo that best fits your needs. So here's some links to go to the logo for either your chapter, your region, or the chair's theme. Self-explanatory. Brand identity standards, I'm just going to point out on this, super important that you understand the brand identity standards. Everything that you utilize that has the HFMA name or brand identifier on it is regulated, and there are standards that you have to follow. You cannot change colors, you cannot change font, you cannot change unless it falls within the guidelines. So please, if you're managing this or using any of this information, visit that link, and when we send this out, so that you understand what you can and cannot do with the logos. And I believe that is that.
Awesome. Well, Jason, thank you so much for sharing all of this information with those on the virtual session today. We hope that this session provided you with some information that you all can take back to your chapter. I found it very useful myself. Thank you. We would like to thank everybody for participating in the session today, and we are populating up the Zoom details for our next session that begins at 12:45 are in the chat pod right now, and the next session we are going to have some best practice sharing with your peers on best practices that they've encountered on communications and programs. So we look forward to seeing you back in 30 minutes, everybody. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks everybody for joining.
Thanks.